Right, morning. Welcome, everybody. Today we're talking about respect. So, yeah, just kicked off with that little song called Respect Yourself.
No, we're not
No, we're not what?
talking about respect. That's the UK one.
It is? I got it all wrong again. Okay, well, no respect from this crowd, so got it completely wrong. What are we talking about, Lee?
We completely respect the fact that you thought it was a different topic. Yeah, it is definitely confusing. So we're running multiple wisdoms chats. And so one topic to the other is a bit confusing. So we're running UK wisdoms chats once a week. And so next week, we're going to be talking about respect. So we'll do that. So today we're talking about quick fixes. You know, do they work? Okay. Don't they work? Why would they? Is there some benefit to them? Yeah, so I think for me...
That was a quick fix, Lee. Thank you. So, yeah.
So I'm going to just quickly take over. Yeah, so... You know, I think it's good to be personal as well as to be theoretical or to bring you know, some opinions and ideas into it. And so I was thinking about quick fixes, and I know, and I just have a gut reaction to just the concept, even the idea, and I just I immediately build up a resistance to the concept, and I have to think about, so where does that come from? And I might have mentioned it before, but you know, we grew up in a relatively poor family. I wouldn't say we weren't poverty stricken. But money was always a topic and was always something, we always had to be careful. And my mom would buy a lottery ticket every month. And she would tell me, and in those days in Rhodesia, as it was then, you would write, your lottery ticket would have a name on it. You could write something, and she would say, "For my girls," because there were 4 of us, "For my girls." That would be the name of the lottery ticket. And as a little girl, I would just diligently pray, "Lord, please, would you let us win the lottery ticket, win the lottery this month, because then somehow it would solve all our problems." And you know, that pipe dream, that, you know, just the false thinking or wishing for something that would quickly wipe out difficulties is something that I've sort of now put behind me and say, no, and in my life, whether that's now I've gone the other way, I've only ever thought, whatever I am going to do, I'm going to need to work for it. There's no such thing as a quick fix. You put the work in and it will return to you. That's been my experience of work, and that's been my experience of business. And yesterday, Monday, I did this interview with this young woman starting her business. And we were talking about cold calling and the reality that is something you have to do in business. If you're going to, it's not, and saying, "Oh, I hate cold calling, I don't want to do it," and then just not doing it isn't actually an option when you're running your business, especially when you're starting out, and especially when your pipeline is running dry. And so she said she would make a game of it. She would draw a grid of 100 squares. And she said in her mind, she worked out that she would get 1 in 5 yeses to a meeting. So if she got 10 no's, that was fine for her, because she knew out of 100, she'd get 20 yeses, and every no she would color in a red square, and then a yes would be a green square. And it just was it didn't bother her because she had a map. She could color in her squares. Every square was something she'd done. And it was this process, this deliberate action that led to the results. And I just have a much greater sense of it's that kind of diligence and work that is more likely to pay off and reap rewards than quick fixes. So that's my personal story thrown into the mix.
Great, thanks Lee, for getting us back on track after my little diversion and sidetrack there. So Trevor, quick fixes right up your alley, I think, aren't they? Okay, we had to try and quickly fix his computer last night, and now he can't work out how to drive it. So more quick fixes needed.
Oh, geez, don't catch me short. So as you were talking there, I think it's basic human nature to want the easy way out rather than the hard way. And I think what we see happening with what happened there in GameStop and all of these individuals looking to make quick fortunes. I mean, if I could have been there, I would have been right on top of it. And I'm reminded of, you know, I was back in the days of Chicago Mercantile Exchange and trading on local stock exchanges here. And there is always the temptation to have a go. And one of the biggest bond market proponents here in South Africa always said to me, Trevor, the thing about you is that you're willing to have a go where other people fear. And what he always shared with me is if you do not have a ticket, in other words, if you don't have an investment in that bond option, you can't enjoy the ride. And I think that goes for lottery tickets. And look, there was a poor guy you talked of Rhodesia. I know to Zimbabwe, and this poor guy, his name was Mugabe. He took a ticket and he happened to win the lottery. But he also happened to be the president of Zimbabwe. So I'm sure there was nothing untoward with the ticket that he had. And I also know in my own family, there's not a week that goes by that my wife doesn't have a ticket just based on that, just in case, because it would be lovely to win 50 odd million. Who's going to look 50 million in the face and be concerned about actually getting that, all for the cost of a little ticket? So what's wrong with a little flutter? As long as you actually don't sell your house and home or your entire career in buying 100,000 tickets to actually win this, because your chances of losing that are high. The other thing, as you were talking about quick fix, I was thinking back about my canoeing days. And I think this concept of quick fix and easy money and getting rich, to me, tends to play along the line of, do you want to simplify things or do you really want to complicate things? And when we were canoeing, there were two ways that you could actually fix your canoe if you hit a rock, which we often did because we tackled some very big rapids. You could actually stop and spend an entire day fixing your canoe, or mostly because we were in races, if this thing was taking a ton of water, you would take your little kit out and you would do a hot fix. So you would take your resin and you would quickly mix it up, make it hot so that it dries within a minute and a half, and you would put that hot fix onto your boat. It would look ugly, and your canoe, we called it boats, so we were heathens in our days, and you would plug the hole, you would get in, and you would be back on the water to actually get across the finish line. So can you look at quick fixes as being hot fixes? They're not there to last permanently, but they are there to get you over the line where other people are sitting back and saying, you know what, I won't bother to finish this race. I'll actually take this thing back to the factory and leave it there for a couple of weeks. Yesterday, I'm sure somewhere along the line, we talked about the importance of speed and action. And I'm sure this young lady that you were talking about that at the 100 squares is someone who actually, I remember you talking about her, 28-year-old entrepreneur who said the most important things today are do things at speed, take action, but also the flip side of that is have patience. And I was thinking about that. I was in the army when we used the term hurry up and wait. So anyone who was ever in the army also fell under that hurry up and wait. And maybe that's what life is about today. You've got to act quickly. You've got to move. You've got to be in front of the crowd. You've got to take a ticket just in case that ticket actually comes up. But you must also be prepared to have patience, working on the other side of the coin that Lee reminds us of. Generally, to get to the top of Everest takes a hell of a lot of hard work. And mostly the helicopters don't fly up there like taxis here in South Africa. You've got to graft hard for most that you do. But why not play both ends of this little spectrum? Have a flutter and be prepared to work damn hard. I wonder if that's what it's about. Am I getting soft in my old age?
Oh, definitely, without a shadow of a doubt. So yeah. So getting soft, I don't know if that's got anything to do with quick fixes. Let's not go down that route, but that could get dangerous. So we'll leave that one alone. So Jasper, let's get across to you. What's your quick fix this morning?
Yeah, well, you guys are taking us on a roller coaster. We respectfully started the day not thinking about quick fixes, and then we're back into quick fixes. And now I've learned a new word, hot fix, and I actually like it. I like the angle that Trevor put there on the whole thing. So I think he's right, and I think we all agree that human nature is such that we will always go for the easy route rather than the difficult route if we have a choice. And it's only that in some cases life doesn't give you that kind of choice, and it takes it away from you. And if you don't make a choice quickly, then life makes it for you. And I'm thinking in the case of people getting into financial difficulties and creditors taking them to liquidation, so then you don't have a choice as made for you. But I think we all grow up throughout our life, and we wrestled with things like now that we in our mature days, is there a quick fix for weight? A guy who can figure out a pill that you can swallow, and tomorrow morning you will have lost half a kilo. I mean, he'll be a multi-millionaire, because then we can regulate our lives by the amount of weight we want with the pills that we swallow. The same with exercise. If I can somehow not have to go through the sweat, but I can have a six-pack, that kind of thing. We all want that. And the closest one can get to it is get some of these ready-made clothes that are fleshly colored and have a six-pack sewn into it. That's about the closest one can get into it. And the same with skill. To acquire a new skill. Here in my for years, it was on my bucket list to learn French. And I've tried ways to do it, and it's one of the most difficult languages out there. And then I got onto Duolingo, who just managed to make it a bit more fun. And at least it now keeps me going. I still can't speak French, but I'm already on maybe day 500 of trying to learn. And every day you do a few small lessons. And maybe you do pick up stuff over the many years of just exposure. So the real truth is life, anything worth having takes time. So it comes back to this, almost people are willing to to do the slog if at least the rewards are balanced with the action that you get. So if the reward are not almost synchronized with the action, so I think Lee, you mentioned that. So this lady gave herself, this expectancy of I'll do 5, and I'm expecting 1 in 5. But so if it's not in this 5, maybe I get 2 in the next 5, but it will average out 1 in 5 kind of thing. So maybe therein lies the secret and the challenge. How can one, in whatever you do, balance the reward to action formula so that people stay in for the long haul? And I think in a way that's what I'm trying to attempt with the whole gig movement, is to set the expectation, not to expect quick results now, but first of all, set the scene to say, what is your legacy looking back 60 years after your death? Then it takes away this short-term thing, because here we are already in the 2nd month of the year, and people haven't even yet finished what they plan to do for 2020. So a year is just too short to get things done. And sometimes it takes a few years to unpack the results. So even our community chamber is only a 3-year exercise. So I think it's hard to find that balance. And then I was also reminded of the age-old, and I'm reading in my quiet time through the first few books of the Bible again, in the story of the Israelites coming out of slavery. And after 40 years, they then get the go-ahead to now go into the promised land. And now the Bible doesn't say how long it took them to do all the fights and wars and stuff like it, but one would imagine it would be a couple of years, 10 years, 20 years. But now Joshua, who took them into the promised land, he's now old, and he's now about to depart. And he talks to them. And then the Bible says, just almost in a little footnote, and the land was still not fully conquered, and God allowed it to be so that future generations will always be fighting ready. In other words, they had to continuously keep fighting the enemy. So in one way, they could have just done the job and get it over and done with and annihilate everybody. But because they got to a comfort zone and they fought just hard enough so that each one now got a piece of land and a place to stay, they didn't want to go through the hassle and the risk of now going out and fight even people further afield. And those people in time to come became their enemies. But I think it's the way life is designed. So it keeps you life fit and life strong, so that we can deal with things. And I like that hot fix. So I think, when a challenge comes, especially South Africa, Ed, we have a thing, a boer maak 'n plan, which means a farmer makes a plan, which says there's always a solution. Just keep looking harder. And it's maybe not the best long term, but for now it will get the job done and you will get over the finish line. And then you can circle back and see how you can do it perfectly. And it's amazing how many of the hot fixes became the permanent fixes in life, because life gets so busy that we just keep moving on. Yeah, so that's my quick fix contribution for today.
Great, thanks, Jasper, and we'll pardon your French, so don't worry about that. So Ed, yeah, what are your quick fixes?
Yeah, before we get to that, I'm looking forward to tomorrow, because yesterday, Ivan, you were on about seas. So I'm looking forward to you playing the Temptations song, Ball of Confusion. Yeah, I thought it was interesting because Lee set the subject of examine the desire for quick fixes, and is the increasing need and digital options available, sort of increasing our desires. So I thought about that, and I'm really glad that there's one quick fix that's been reversed, and that's instant coffee, because I think instant coffee is the spawn of the devil. And in South Africa, you've made it even worse by having that horrible chicory stuff. And that's one thing I've refused to embrace about South Africa. I like real coffee, and I refuse to have that quick fix, although I suppose my slow coffee is also a fix. And I think it's interesting because, you know, quick fixes aren't necessarily wrong. It's not true that anything worth having takes time. Think of the coronavirus vaccination. Wow, wasn't that produced quickly? Normally it takes years for vaccines to be developed for a new disease. So I think sometimes quick fixes are right. And I was interested in this sort of thing about viewing the lottery as a quick fix. I don't think it is a quick fix because, you know, it takes a long time to win the lottery. In the UK, they've changed the rules. It used to be 1 in 13 million. It's now about 1 in 25 or 50 million. And I think it's an excuse. I give talks about achieving goals. And I say, you know, most people, when they say, oh, I really want to travel the world when I win the lottery, or I want to have a stud farm when I win the lottery, it's given them an excuse because they don't need to do anything until they win the lottery. So I don't think it is a quick fix. I think it's an excuse not to do any work. And I thought it was interesting about Everest and helicopters, because we've got a mountain in Wales called Snowden. And you can either walk up it, and there's an easy route and there's a hard route, or you can run up it. I run up it. But you can also take a train. And I'm sure the people that take the train, well, they do. They see exactly the same view as the person that's walked or run up Snowden. But I'm sure that view is better when you've walked up. And also you've had the experience of the journey. But yeah, I think some quick fixes are good. And like Trevor, I've very often made some running repairs. I remember, you know, there's a saying, there's nothing you can't fix without cable ties and gaffer tape. And I know on one particular adventure race, I had to mend my bike that way. Otherwise, I would never got to the end. But that wouldn't have been permanent. So I think very often quick fixes are good, but they're perhaps not permanent. And then the other thing to think about is the digital stuff. And yesterday, Trevor said that companies are identifying what people want. And I don't think they are. I think they're driving what people want, and they're driving that quick fix. And one example I always use, because it winds me up no end, and I don't know whether you have it in South Africa, ready mixed screen wash. Rather than buying a bottle of concentrated screen wash, you know, so you can get all the flies off the windscreen, which is maybe a litre bottle of concentrated liquid, you can go in a supermarket, you can go in a garage and buy 5 litres of ready diluted screen wash. So you just put it in your washer bottle of your car. You don't need to put any water in, you just put this whole thing in. Now, I'm sure no one ever went into a supermarket and said, well, I'm really fed up of putting this concentrated stuff in and putting water in. Can't you give me a great big bottle of it? The only reason it exists is because garages used to give water away free. Now they can charge for it. And they've made us lazy because we can't be bothered to put the screen wash in, then put the water in. We just have this big bottle. And what it means is they're selling us water. They make 2.5 times more profit out of selling 5 litres of pre-diluted screen wash than they do selling concentrated screen wash. It's the same with a lot of things. They drive our desire for these quick fixes. And the digital world's the same. On Instagram, you get loads of guys standing in front of flash cars saying, I made all this money and bought all this stuff, and follow me, bung me loads of dollars, and I'll show you my success. no one realizes they're standing in front of someone else's car. They actually live in a little shack somewhere. So I think pictures of other people having success are making us want quick fixes. Pictures of views from the top of Snowden. Oh, isn't that pretty? Let's go and get a selfie there. We'll take the train up. So I think, you know, the digital age showing us stuff, the fact that we've been suckered into wanting stuff instantly by supermarkets, by big business, means we want those quick fixes. And we're no longer prepared to work for it. We want a ready meal because we think we lack the time to cook. We don't lack the time to cook. Sometimes microwaving stuff takes longer than actually cooking it. We've just been bought into this. And where's this thing that we haven't got the time? Are we not in control of our own time? Everyone has 24 hours. We decide how we use it. People ask me, how can I afford to go out on runs for 3 or 4 hours at a time? Quite simple. I don't watch TV. So people want their quick fix in their entertainment by sitting in front of a screen because they've been lured into it, rather than going out in nature and going for a run. So yeah, I love quick fixes because it gives me time to do other stuff. If I can do something quickly that in the past would take me a long time, like for example, my washing, I just stuff it in a machine, the machine does all the work. I haven't got to boil a big vat full of water or nip down the river and pummel it against a rock and then hang it out on a bush to dry. I can just shove it in a machine and take it out and it's done. So I love quick fixes, but only when they really, really do improve my life and not take away from my life. And I think so many of the quick fixes actually take away from our life. And the other thing is, some of them are dangerous. Trevor talked about people going on the stock market, and you know, we're now seeing those people that went on there losing money, and people are buying stuff with credit, and credit is so easy. We're forced to have credit. I don't know whether you have the same thing in South Africa, but PayPal, you can now spread the payment over 3 installments. So you get PayPal credit. There's a thing called Clara, where you buy something and you pay for it over 3 installments over a long time period. They fleece you. So people doing that are having their instant fix and their pain months later when they can't pay the credit card bill, they can't pay the what's it. So yeah, instant fixes are great as long as there's no pain later, because give me that coronavirus jab as soon as you can. I'm really great for that quick fix. But I'd also like to have my pleasures long, because I get more out of them by long pleasures. That's my thoughts.
Great, thanks, Ed. So yeah, I've got a quick fix for your screen wash problem. You just get rid of your car. I think you might have done that already.
I have.
So Trevor, yeah, you got your hand up.
I want a hot fix right of reply to an aspersion cast by Ed Chapman, where he said that I said companies look to go and find out what their consumers want. That's what they should do, but they don't. They actually just come up with the product, and then they look for ways to spend their billions to actually influence you to take it up. So that's the slight correction that I want to give to Ed there. But I still maintain we should be asking our consumers, what do you want? And then developing that for them and have them buy that from us. That's enough. That's my hot fix.
Thanks, Trevor. And I've got a feeling someone like by the name of Jim Rohn said that back in the 1950s. So if you want to get rich quickly, find a community that has a problem and provide them with a solution. So that's the quickest fix. The hard ways are, as you say, you know, going out there with your solution and I always used to say that about CRM when it first came out in the late 90s and early 2000s. It was the IT industry coming to business and saying, here's the answer, what's your question? And I think too many businesses actually still in that mode. They're coming out, here's the answer, what's the question? And as Ed and others have said, I think the challenge is the questions are being provided through social media, and unthinking consumers are simply accepting that these are the answers rather than actually really looking at the question and looking at the question and deciding for themselves. So it comes back to thinking at the end of the day, doesn't it, really? So if you don't think, you're going to be led. And if you're led, you're going to go down paths that you probably don't want to go down, because the person that's leading you is taking you in their direction, not in your direction. So it's all about thinking at the end of the day. And I'm not sure if the answer is Coke these days any longer, Trevor. I think it's got a second K and an I in it, and that's all about the cookies that these people are putting on your computer so they can lead you in the direction they want you to. So yeah, Ed, and I have no idea how long an F1 car lasts, but that's something that, in my opinion, should be written off the planet completely. But that's a whole nother discussion, so we won't get tangled up in that one. So, yeah, quick fixes are, they can have value without a doubt. As Ed says, they add value to your life. If they simply a desire for a shortcut, that's probably unsustainable and won't last. And as I put in the chat a little bit earlier, if you look at some of the stats on previous lotto winners, it doesn't really matter how much money they get, most of them lose it pretty quickly. They didn't work for it. It was a quick fix, and it doesn't stick. So that's one of the problems with those kinds of quick fixes, I think, is they don't stick, and then you're on looking for the next quick fix. And that leads us down the route of the addictions, and the addictions come in all shapes and forms, but most of them are looking for quick fixes. So, having sort of recovered, we need a quick fix. Lee, what is the topic for tomorrow?
I was wondering whether we could talk about speed. We've been talking about quick fix and then how does it relate to the speed at which we do things? So. Yeah, let's just use that word speed as a way to prompt our conversation tomorrow.
Great, thanks, Lee. I was a bit worried when you said let's talk about speed and we were talking about quick fixes, because that could really take us down.
I knew that was definitely we're very punny group, so I knew that was definitely going to be speed and Coke. Oh, we're in trouble.
Speed and Coke, we've got a real problem going on here. So please stay off the speed and Coke today, but join us quickly again tomorrow morning, and we'll see if we can use some alternative words for getting a bit speedier. So have a great one, folks. See you tomorrow. Go well.